talking some side spin here. Side spin is where I'm hitting off center of the cue ball in order to make sure the cue ball can move left or right. Pretty simple. And what we want to notice here is when we hit, let's say for example into the side rail here, dead center of the cue ball, we're going to call that 12 o'clock. Hitting dead center of the cue ball is going to be always known as 12 o'clock. When you're working with side spins, the clock theory works very, very well in order to make sure you're hitting the right part of the cue ball and make sure your cue ball is moving around in the right spots. So let's just make sure we kind of see that. For example, if I'm hitting dead center of the cue ball right now, that is 12 o'clock. And if I hit through this, the cue ball would definitely come straight back at me. Physics always shows hitting straight through will kind of make sure that happens. Now, I'm going to hit a little off center of the cue ball. If I was hitting at 12 o'clock right there, I'm going to hit a little bit to the right. We're going to call that 2 o'clock. Visualize, obviously, is a big thing, but we're going to hit 2 o'clock on the cue ball here. That will then force that cue ball, after it hits the rail, to move to the right. The action that it takes with the spin or the way it moves left or right here is because after it hits off the rail, I make contact in a particular part of the cue ball, and the rail is going to take over as a spin then. So if I hit that again, I'm going to hit the left side of the cue ball this time. Left side of the cue ball is going to be at 10 o'clock. If I hit the 10 o'clock spot, that cue ball will then move to the left after that rail hits. So we're always going to make sure we judge our spin, side spin sometimes, because it makes the cue ball move in different directions. Hitting dead center every single time doesn't make it do it. Usually a lot of advanced players are always going to use side spins in order to move the cue ball around after they make shots. So we're going to do a situation here playing 8-ball. Let's say I'm on my second to last ball here. Well, I'm on my last shot before the 8. And I got to make sure after I hit this one ball in that I'm in position for the 8. Natural position, let's say if I just hit this dead center right now, normal 12 o'clock shot, hitting this at 12 o'clock does give me very, very little of an easier shot to the next one. I want to make that much easier on myself. So hitting dead center of that situation, or hitting at 12, only push it up so close. So what we're going to do in that same situation now is we're going to add some right spin. Okay, so in this situation we're going to be hitting on the 2 o'clock part of the cue ball here, hitting this 14 in the side, and after it hits this 14, after contact, the cue ball will run over here and then it'll scoot a little bit, or it kind of jumps off, or this is the reason why we call it running English, because it just continues to keep moving. So you're going to see after I hit this cue ball into that 14, the cue ball you're going to see run a little bit after I hit the 2 o'clock spot. Now you can see the cue ball run way closer in position. It was running English right there. So the other part of this is using the left English too, or left side spin. So hitting the right side of the spin was obviously the right decision in this, but we're going to show you what it looks like hitting a left spin now too. So same situation, I'm hitting the 6-ball in the side pocket. I'm hitting this now at 10 o'clock. Hitting this at 10 o'clock. So you can see the big difference there is that hitting the left side of the cue ball on the right side of the 6, it takes off a little bit of speed with that. Plus, once I hit the rail with that cue ball spinning, with the cue ball spinning to the left and the cue ball moving to the right, it does slow down the cue ball after it hits that rail. It kind of stops it or checks it a little bit more. So we're going to do that again. We're going to check that with the right English, right side spin, as we like to call it, running English here. This is going to be the running English hitting at 2 o'clock on the cue ball. See, I got kind of close to my target. Then we're going to be hitting this 13-ball in the side pocket with left English. In this case, 10 o'clock on the cue ball. So you can see the differences of where speed control or speed of the cue ball is going to be very, very key with either using left or right in that situation. In this situation, using the right side of the cue ball was an easier route, so it made better shapes on my 8-ball. So now we're going to look at it, not just hitting at the 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock spot, or left, top left and top right. We're going to be looking now at hitting bottom left and bottom right, or hitting a little bit of draw in these situations. Sometimes if I hit running English above center, and this is my case here, I'm hitting the 2-ball in the side pocket, but I want my cue ball to be running all over the place with running English. So I'm going to slow the process down, hitting my reverse English here on the 2 ball here, which reverse in this situation is going to be hitting left side and just towards the bottom. I'm always going to hit a little bit of bottom so I can slow down the cue. So I can easily have control of that. If I hit that above center, my cue ball can easily run much faster and get me a bad position. So that was hitting the left side of the bottom part. Now I'm going to hit the bottom again on the right side here. And when I mean bottom, when I hit the right side of the cue ball here, I'm going to be hitting towards 5 o'clock. When I hit the left side, it was at 7. So when I hit towards the 5 o'clock spot now, the cue ball should slightly come to the right. And as you can see, it can kind of come off a little different ways each time when you use that. So spin is very, very key when you're working this again. So we want to make sure that you know the cue ball is going to be off center when you hit, and after it hits, the action takes place off the rail most times. So we're going to make sure that when we hit different areas here, we're going to try the above center one again at the 2 o'clock spot. We want to make sure the cue ball is using that rail. We want to use that rail when that happens. So now we're going to look at it a different way, using draw, okay, using our backspin. Sometimes a situation may be to where I might have a straight in shot right here on the 5 ball, and it's 2 dead straight basically, meaning that I don't really have any options to run the cue ball left or right when it's dead straight. So another good method to use is how to use draw with your left and right English, and how to make it move different parts of the table without making it too complicated. So what's going to happen here? A normal draw on the 5 ball here. Let's see a normal draw coming back towards me with the cue. Cue ball should come all the way back towards me, going back nice and straight. But just hitting draw itself wasn't enough to get shapes on the 8 ball. So what we need to do is what we're going to hit on this. We're going to hit a little bottom and left. I know that sounds very, very crazy because we need the cue ball to move to the right, but we're going to be hitting bottom and left because after the backspin comes back off the 15 and it has that left spin is going to take off of that rail and jump towards the right side a little bit more over here. So when I hit this bottom and left, it's going to come back and then it's going to jump off towards the right. So you can see how it jumps off much further over here after hitting the left side of the cue ball here and drawing it off. It's a very, very fun, fancy way, I think, sometimes of hitting them in. So again, we're going to check it out, hitting the bottom. And this is what it's going to look like hitting bottom and the left side of the cue ball, hitting 7 o'clock. Better chalk up. And this has had to be a straight shot, and sometimes it's easier to do this when it's dead straight in. So then I get a good jump. Once again, if I just hit a regular draw on that straight shot, that would only come straight back, and then when I have shapes on that. Now, what if I hit right spin on this shot? Because if I hit right spin while drawing, it should go to the right, as most people would think. But in this case, when I hit dead straight on this, and I'm hitting with right draw on it, the draw is actually spinning back towards here, but it's also spinning to the left, which won't make this jump off as much as the left spin. So again, I'm going to be hitting right bottom on this, right side bottom spin. But after the cue ball comes back this way, it's not going to jump off as much as the left spin. Let's try it out. So you can see, when I hit the right spin this time, I hit all that right bottom on it, it came back. But what happened is that since it was spinning so much that way, it can't move over this way, so it had to kind of check again. So once again, the spin took most of its place after the rails hit. So it doesn't matter how much spin I'm hitting in each shot, as long as I get to use the rails mostly when I do that. So let's see that again. I'm going to do a draw again. Let's do a normal draw, hitting dead center. Very, very straight situation here, so I'm going to hit dead center bottom, which is 6 o'clock in my world. Remember, that's our 6 o'clock result. That was hitting with no side spin. That gave me no shape on that 8 ball here in the corner. So we're going to try that again. Now, we're going to do it with left spin. I'm going to do this straight in shot, hitting with left bottom. Once again, that cue ball will not only come back here, it'll jump, it'll take place off that rail more since it's spinning that direction and take off a little bit more of the rail, give me better shapes. A little off center on that one. We'll do that left one again. I want to draw that back nice and straight through. There it goes. But once again, I can see how much jump it has off that rail when I'm using my side spins. And once again, this is a really, really good tip to have when you're working this game. So a very, very important thing to remember when you're doing these side spins is that we're mostly using obviously the right and left side of the cue ball, but we're mostly using the run